we've got two competing operating systems going on inside of us. And this is the Bible calls it the flesh and the spirit. And neuroscience and psychology and all this stuff, it backs it up and it calls it different things, but it really comes down to inside of us, we've got the flesh version of us and how that operates, and we've got the spirit version of us. And that's learning how to differentiate between those two and how to choose which one you engage is the key to being able to figure out like what your calling, what your purpose is in life, and especially actually doing something about it on a consistent, understandable basis. So the spirit part of you, and this is, a lot of you probably heard a lot of this, from, sermons and stuff all your lives, but we want to make it a whole lot more like accessible and real seeming. Like, okay, what's the difference? How does this relate to me? Why is it relevant? The spirit part of you is the part of you that's like tuned into the spiritual realm. It's the part of you that it connects to God. It's like it's the deep thoughts that you're able to have. The spirit part of you is like your genius zone. Every single one of you, in some way, you may not have a clue what it is, you may have a really strong inclination, like you are really genius at something.
These two things are always literally at war, and Paul talks about this where he says like, the things I want to do I can't do, the things I don't want to do, that's what I end up doing. Because we are always, in this life, we're always going to have this war between the spirit and the flesh, and it literally is like they are rubber bands like pulling at each other. And the more
you're in the middle.
The more you do, so we touched on inner healing in one of the classes, and you guys have touched on this a little bit. The more you can heal these old traumas and the old lies you believe about yourself, the less it's going to pull. The war will never be over, but just realizing this paradigm is life-changing, because you can choose to be a victim and walk over here, or you can choose, I'm just going to follow what I love and what God is directing me.
And then there's some people that don't have that feeling or sensation at all. They have been given the gift, Landon, of being able to be at peace with life and find easiness to just process anger and get right through it and get on to the next place.
And I would say though, sometimes that person might have just as much of a pull later in their life when they realize all the stuff under the surface does actually create things.
And here's the thing, like you're never going to be able to like get rid of those two operating systems. They're always going to be there. As long as you are a physical human being, you're going to have the flesh, you're going to have the spirit, and you're going to have to choose. And so being able to identify, which one of these two things am I going to go with in a given situation? Like something comes up and you're like, okay, I can either panic and try to fix this, or I can pray about this and see what I get and go with that. Like you get, the key is to make enough space.
Response thing model.
Exactly.
Right, it's that same idea. It's react by freaking out or
Flesh
respond by choosing how am I going to deal with this.
Yeah.
So you've got the flesh and the spirit, and they're literally just two competing operating systems of following your inspiration. The spirit is your connection with God. It's literally like the interface that you have with Him. It's what makes us unique as human beings. Like you don't see like dolphins following their calling. Like they're smart enough in some ways, but like God is not calling them in the same way that He's calling you. Like we're not going to have like spirit dolphins in the kingdom. I don't think.
I think we should.
But like there's an interface that you have that nothing else on the planet has besides human beings to connect with God and access that level of creation.
And we want to teach you how to tap into that.
Yeah.
So,
And
move on.
yeah. So all right, let's see. I'm rambling here. So here's the cool thing, like when we choose to tap into that interface with God and choose to follow Him, it's not like, well, do this and see what happens, maybe it'll turn out. When we choose to follow God, when we choose to like seek, what do you want from me? What do you want me to do? He's always going to hold up His half of the bar, His end of the bargain. He does way more than half. We're doing like the 2% that He gives us to do. He's always going to hold up His 98% of the bargain in whatever He gives us to do. It's not like he's going to give you a job and be like, oh yeah, but I'm not going to give you what you need. You're on your own. That's not how he works. God is faithful. He's never going to give you a task or a calling and not give you what you need to get it done. That's the challenge is actually like living your life based on the fact that he's actually going to hold up his end of the bargain. That's faith. And it's simple, but not easy. The trick is learning how to go to God and ask, what do you actually want me to do here? Like, give me the direction you want. And then actually getting your brain to shut up so you can hear an answer. And I don't mean like voices, but that's what we're going to cover this week is like, how do you actually hear an answer from God when you ask him? And it's not one particular way. It might be different for everybody. It might be different one day to the next. But when you ask God something, he will give you an answer if you're able to get all the noise quieted down enough to actually hear it. So that's one of the big things we're going to work on this week is how to shut down the noise.
Has any of you guys here ever actually experienced like hearing from God? Not a voice, but like, yeah, you're nodding your head. So what is it usually like? What's it like for you?
Well, it's been different at different times and in different situations, but I've like bluntly heard him tell me to do and not to do something.
Yeah.
So like not a voice, but like it's hard to explain.
It's almost like your own voice. Like your own voice.
It's not a voice like it doesn't sound like anything. It's just like in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you just
like a thought.
feel it. Yeah.
And you know it's not yours. Like that
Yeah,
wasn't
you know
a
it
huge
didn't
thought.
come from
And
me.
what happened? So did you follow it?
Yeah,
So
I always
what,
do.
what happened? Like, what happened after you did? Did it turn out good?
Well, it didn't make sense at the time, but sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. But the specific time I'm thinking about didn't make sense at the moment, but then later, like a year later, it made more sense. I was like, okay, I see why.
Yeah. Sometimes it seems like the most illogical thing it's telling you to do, right? You're like,
Yeah.
what? But you train yourself to follow it because, like, after you get enough evidence, it's like, okay, I followed that crazy thing and it actually turned out good. You build your faith, right? So it's
Yeah.
easier to follow the next time. That's cool.
See, my things are just like questions or concerns that come up. Like I've had 3 really big moments in the past year. One was for a couple of weeks I was praying. I was like, okay, well, I feel more devoted, but am I doing enough? You know, can people see my progress? Can I see my progress? You know, have I changed enough? And then here at camp, my youth pastor came up to me, pulled me aside, and he was like, I just want to let you know that over the past 3 years, I've seen a lot of change. And you've gotten so much better. And that was one. And then
Right when you were
one-
doubting it and looking for
Yeah.
confirmation.
And then another one, I had a conversation to our kids camp with our kids as their teen staffer. And I pulled the leader of the staffers aside, Lori. I was like, I just don't feel like I'm connecting with these kids, you know, on the deeper level. We went from that conversation into a worship session, and after that worship session, I had one of my girls stay behind and watch walk her through salvation.
Huh.
And then one was here. I was talking to Mr. G, and he brought up, you know, somebody here that, you know, was just kind of struggling, and had talked to him, and I just like 2 days before started getting the feeling and the thought of, okay, well, should I talk to this person? You know, maybe I should send them a text or a note or something, you know, just to make sure they're doing all right, just kind of show them that they're not alone. And then we had that conversation. He didn't know that I was wrestling with that thought. And he was like, okay, well now
Yeah.
you have to go talk to that person.
Yeah, it's like God, you can hear him in different ways. It might like just seem like a little thought, or he can speak through somebody else to you.
Yeah.
Or if you're a more visual person, sometimes you'll like see a word or something. I don't know if you guys know.
Or a picture.
Yeah.
Or a picture that's like symbolic, right?
A lot of times you can take the whore out and it's ands, and it adds on top of. So you'll hear something,
Yeah.
somebody will say
Extra
something,
confirmation.
and then circumstances in your life will then support that. if you're going in the wrong direction. I'm going to go through my story and ask Steve to knock. That's our connect with God process. So I won't share that
I'm curious
now.
about
Good,
more
we're
like
stealing
logical,
scripture.
what about the more
Good.
logical,
Yeah.
like, you're super logical. You said you are, like, do you have any experience of like, how good? No.
I really don't think I've never had a feeling of like a thought and thought that it was
Really? Okay. Yeah, and that's really interesting. And I think, there's downsides of each personality, some kind of personality, and there's upsides. The downside of, emotional is sometimes you can get carried away with your feelings. But he and I have talked about this a lot because he's very cerebral. The downside of logic is sometimes we get so just caught up in like everything is my own thought. So you've never experienced like a picture or anything like that?
I'll say, just go along with this, and it's gonna get real wild. Like
It sounds stupid.
it sounds,
Crazy.
I can really relate to how you explain things, and I'm like, yep, I know just.
He's
what
like,
that's
God talks to you.
And yeah, it's gonna get wild.
Yeah, a lot of times it's hard to differentiate because it's your own thoughts,
Yeah,
right? But when your own thoughts are directed toward your core motive and how you connect with others, you probably just think you're being caring or loving or helping or whatever. But that's the part, the selfless side of your thoughts is quite often the things that God is speaking through you. And it's very hard to determine between that and something else.
right.
So you have to walk through these experiences in a different way to see where it's leading you. And eventually you'll go down some roads to help people or do things for others that you might not have. And you'll see that how it affected other people and they needed you to be there.
Yeah.
It takes really this type of stuff to be aware of it and then to walk through it.
Yeah, because if you've never had a personal experience of something, you don't even think that it exists until you see, oh wait, these other people
Yeah.
have had this.
I'm going to talk about how in our Ask You Knock process, how I shut down my business a little at a time with these thoughts. So
Because of thoughts.
That might help too.
So who's got their Bible?
These
He
two
had
have-
something to
these-
say.
Oh, I
they
didn't
both
realize.
have something to say.
Yeah, what's up? Sorry.
Do you want to go first? Well, I guess I'll go.
Yeah,
I
go
was just
ahead.
going to ask you about one thing that you told me the other night about how you became
You're in trouble now.
and you had kind of given it a try like the year before, and then last summer you had a thought. I don't remember exactly what you said, but it was something along the lines of like, what am I kind of doing for God? Like you were frustrated with the fact that you didn't feel like He really liked you. And then you kind of have your thought, like, what am I doing for God? So it's my opinion, I'm not sure. An experience where, like, you kind of, like, God communicated in a way.
Like posing the question? Like, you mean like,
I was just asking him if he thought maybe that was
that question
in some
being
form.
was God putting that thought there
Yeah.
to sort of
Like
flip
if you-
the.
But it's still hard to tell, right? Is that my own thought or God's, right?
Yeah.
What was what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say like, there's been times like during harvest where it's like 2 or 3 in the morning. And I'm like outside in the middle of a cornfield completely alone. It's just quiet and like there's like a deer or a coyote that just walks by, like the phone and you just feel like tranquil,
Yeah.
you feel things.
Because God speaks through His creation.
Yeah.
Especially if that's what you're interested in, like you've done farming and you're interested in just the sensory experience of this world. He can talk to you through like leaves on a tree or like a deer running by, right?
Wilderness time, that's in the Bible.
Wilderness time, yes, I'm a big fan of wilderness time.
So you wanted to say something?
But yeah, so it sounds like most of you have had some kind of experience like this. But can you have it at will? We want to help you, and it looks like you're going to teach this too. How can we get more answers from God on a consistent basis? We're going to teach you how to be able to do that, because you can do that every day with everything you're facing, every moment. If you're able to quiet your mind chatter down and just, like you said, be peaceful and tranquil, you can get the exact answer you need for anything if you're just willing to sit there and listen.
Yeah, and so who's got their Bible? Like, that's exactly the point that I wanted to bring out. This is not like a question mark. It's not an unknown. It's not, well, if I ask God something, maybe He'll give me an answer. No, he holds up his end of the bargain. So who wants to, who can flip through the scripture the fastest? It looks like Carl is already halfway there.
I'm trying to figure out where you're going, but I think I know.
Tell you what, we're gonna hit some of the Psalms first. You want to do Psalms?
Oh, I was gonna go in the other direction.
Oh, okay. Well, you want to do Psalm 37:5? This is just like, these are like some of the proof scriptures you can go back to where you're never gonna like pick up the phone and God's not gonna answer. That's basically it. If you ask him something, he will answer.
Unless you have something blocking you.
We'll get into that.
That's
but-
the Bible too.
Right, but generally, it's not like God's gonna be like, nah, you're good. You don't need me. If you ask him something, he will give you an answer, not in the way you're looking for it necessarily, not in the timeline you're looking for it, but he'll always give you the answer. So what's Psalms 37 verse 5?
Commit your way to the Lord, trust in him.
What was the last part?
Trust in him and he will act.
Trust in him and he will act. So like that's
Which
like,
translation is that?
ESV.
Oh, okay.
yeah, good. You actually, that's funny. That was the exact translation that I wanted to make the point in, so that's perfect.
Wow.
Okay, who wants to read Psalm 16 verse 3?
And the other translation of that one is, and he will bring it to pass.
Yeah.
Yep, same thing, but it's like that's God's end of the bargain. Like you do your part, commit your way to the Lord, and he will do his part. Not maybe, but like it's done.
What's the next one?
Psalm 16 verse 3, similar, but another.
As for the saints in the land, they are the excellent ones, in whom is all my delight. Oh wait, no, that's the wrong verse.
Okay, good. I'm like, did I write the wrong one down? Psalm
No, that's-
16 verse 3.
Wait, Psalm
That's it,
16:3.
16:3. As for the saints who are on the earth. Is that what we're going?
Yeah, they are the excellent ones.
And whom is all my delight.
In whom is all my delight.
Okay, maybe I was reading a really weird translation because that isn't the verse I was meaning.
Let's see if we can make it mean
Once you
something.
read what you want.
Well, I
Read
just
what you
had the notation down. So I may have written down a wrong one. Maybe it's like verse 13 or something. I don't know. But we can move on. We got a few more. The point is like when we go to God and ask him something, he's not going to be like, I don't want to bother with that right now. They can figure it out on their
You're
own.
making the point that he's faithful to
God
you.
is
Because
faithful to
there are-
answer, yeah.
I grew up, well, both of us grew up in a church that basically just told you God only speaks to you through the Bible. That's his only way of communicating with you. And so neither of us knew that he talks in so many different ways. And so we almost got lost because we didn't realize the personal relationship with him goes so much deeper than that. I think you just wanted to point to some verses. To
Yeah,
see.
you literally have a live connection with God that you can communicate two ways with him, and it's not like, well, he wrote this for you. Then that's all you got. You can go to him for that. So we've got a couple more, but like asking, seeking, and knocking, it's the exact same principle where if you knock, he will answer. If you seek, you will find. This you do your part, and God will always hold up his end of the bargain and give you the thing that you need. And it's probably not in the form or the time or what you're hoping for, but he will hold up his end of the bargain. Okay, and just moving down through here, the way that he's got that set up, he gives us the opportunity to like exercise that in our lives. And that's the idea of sowing and reaping. Like super biblical, it's all over the place. God set up creation to work that way where, okay, you put a seed in the ground and it grows something. And it seems like the most stupid, obvious thing in the world. Obviously, that's how life works. But that process works for us too. When you plant something, it grows a predictable thing based on what you planted.
But the thing is, so if the soil is your heart, you know, there's the parables of like the sower, right? Sowing seeds into soil, which is the heart.
How many people know that?
Do you guys know this parable?
You might want to read it.
The parable of the sower.
I'd
Yeah.
rather just.
Oh, it's right. Okay.
Yeah, we can like
Yeah.
we can point you in the direction, but like you can Google parable of the sower, and it's like, you know, you can find it.
Anyway,
And if
okay.
you're not
so-
familiar with it, read it. It'll fill
The
in.
soil is our heart, and if you plant a seed, that's the fruit that you're going to grow. But a lot of the time, the soil is not A lot of times the seeds we're planting are not what we think. So if you have a result in your life like, wow, I'm rejected, nobody likes me, there has to be, due to the law of sowing and reaping, somewhere in there, even in your deep down trauma, subconscious wounds, a rejection seed. If you plant a rejection seed, you're going to grow a rejection plant. So you can look at what you have in your life to know what seeds am I planting, because we're not always planting these consciously. Sometimes they've been planted by our parents. You're growing up and you're 2 years old and your parents yells at you, and so all of a sudden you plant this I'm not good enough seed. And so later in your life you're like, why am I feeling like I'm not good enough? Why did I get fired from my job? A lot of the time it's because we're growing plants that we don't realize.
Yeah, and you're walking along and you're planting seeds. You got the success seeds and the money seeds and the friend seeds and the relationship seeds, and you're putting those out there.
But the garden's already full.
But you're getting weeds, and it's because you got weed seeds stuck to your shoes from where you've been before. You're planting more weeds than you realize that are competing with the things that you want in your life. And so if you've got fruit in your life that's not what you want, realize, somehow I'm planting seeds that I'm not meaning to.
Yeah, and we're going to show you like how do I plant the right seeds and how do I deal with all my stuff, my past, my trauma, whatever, to get that out of there so I can go where I want.
Because God gives you the ability to choose what you plant. And if you planted things accidentally in the past, yeah, you got to deal with whatever weeds grew. But being aware of, those got planted, and so I can choose to not keep doing that. God gives us the opportunity in our lives to choose what we plant. And the more we're aware of that, the more we can plant good things and not the weeds.
So, for example, for me, I had an anxiety plant growing. And I'm like, how did this thing get here? This isn't fair. Somewhere I had some seeds that grew anxiety. So I had to go down and, like, God help me uproot those by going through a horrible trial. But the plant was gone after that, more anxiety. But you don't have to go through the horrible trial to get there. So,
Yeah, but just the idea of realizing that if you have fruit in your life, it's not like, oh, that just grew there and I had nothing to do with it, and I just have to deal with whatever this hard thing is. Realizing you may not have meant to. It may not have even been because of something you did, but
right,
that seed.
Something was done to you.
Yeah, or
it has nothing to do with.
Yeah, so you can't control where you were born or the family you're in or things that happen. But everything that's in your life, you do have the ability to nurture or pull out.
So we're talking about the heart here. You want to talk about that section?
Yeah.
So did you know? Can I go into this? So where do you think you have the most neurons in your body? Neurons are like what help you think. Who thinks the brain? Brain. You do have a lot in the brain. You actually have more neurons in your heart. Your heart is like a second brain. It actually thinks at a much deeper level than your mind does. It's the seat of your entire being. And like science is proving this, and it's really weird, right? So there are some really cool stories that back this up. And the Bible says that, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, right? What's planted in here, it will come out.
It's not out of the abundance of your brain, the mouth speaks.
Yeah, and it says that the heart is where the issues of life spring from. Fountains of life, but also the issues that crop up in your life, they're from your heart. So there's some really cool stories out there that prove this. So there was a girl that was murdered, little girl. It was a pretty bad, gruesome murder. And they saved her heart just in time to be able to give it to a donor. They gave it to another little girl. And after 2 days or weeks, the little girl started having vivid nightmares of someone murdering her. So vivid and scary that she told the police. She described everything in vivid detail. They were able to find and convict the killer from this girl's memories that she never experienced because it was stored in her heart.
Wow.
There's so many stories like this. Another one is kind of funny. There was a man that died that they saved his heart. They gave his heart to a woman, and all of a sudden she started having these really weird cravings for Cheetos and beer. And she likes watching football. This is a true story. And she's like, what in the world? is going on? This is not me. And she ended up talking to the man's family, and they're like, he loved Cheetos and beer and watching Sunday Night Football. That was his thing. So it's very interesting to see science start backing up what the Bible says, that this is where we are. But we also have two different hearts, like we're saying, the flesh and the spirit. We have our carnal, worldly heart, the one that God wants to change. That's where our traumas are, the heart of stone. We don't want to let people in. But we also have the spiritual heart. And the Bible says the heart is deceitful above all things. So a lot of people will say, don't follow your heart at all. It can lead you astray. There is truth in don't follow your carnal heart. Absolutely.
Don't do what just feels good and figure, well, it'll
And what
be
you were
fine.
saying, Landon, right? You were saying it's so hard to tell the difference between your thoughts, like the thoughts that might not be good, and then God's thoughts. Like, how do you differentiate it? And so that's where it kind of lies, is in which heart are you tuning into? Your carnal, stony heart? Is that where you're making choices from? Or your spiritual heart? And so our whole work is based off of finding the desires of your true heart, because your heart's desires are actually God's desires for you. So that's what we base this off of.
Yeah, being able to differentiate, okay, what's like the base level operating system of my physical body wants to do this thing because it just wants to. But I want to do something totally different. And okay, which one am I going to go with?
There's one more cool story. This is scientifically documented. I don't remember the scan they use or the electrodes they hook on people, but if there's this study where if I'm on this side of the room and Aaron's way over there, somebody's way over on the other side of the room, and they hook us up to monitors, and I start thinking or feeling love towards that person, guess what happens? My heartbeat shows up in that person's brainwaves in the exact.
They synchronize.
Because our emotions, our love, our thoughts, we think it's all just here, like it's not going to affect somebody. Science is proving exactly what the Bible says, that everything you think and feel, if you're being generous, it's going to come back to you. If you're being hateful, even if the person doesn't know it, it literally is showing up with that, and it's going to come back to you. So the world's doing everything.
Yeah, it's
so
not.
There's so much science behind it.
It's not just make believe. It's not just in your head. It's not just inconsequential. It literally affects the reality around you, and whether or not you see how it does, whatever you're sowing internally is like being created in some sense. It's affecting everything around you. So choosing really intentionally what you're sowing and the choices you're making, the actions you're taking, like you will literally shift the reality around you. Sometimes really, really obviously and quickly. Other times you sow things and it can take years of sowing something, but then all of a sudden you start getting years worth of results back from that. And that's how you can steer your life in a direction you want instead of the direction that just like happens to you.
Yeah, so all of this goes back to finding your life purpose. What do you want to create in your life? That's what we're trying to determine here. What does he want you to create in your life? Because your true heart's desires are what he wants you to do. They are your calling. And so like we said, flesh and spirit, you get to choose if you're going to be the creator. You're going to choose, I'm going to create something I love. I want to create a life I love. Or you can choose, I'm going to be a victim to everything that's happening around me. Every person that's ever insulted me, everybody that gives me the leg, stink eye, like that's going to control me. And
I've got one cool quote before we get into the exercise.
I'm not going.
This is a cool quote by Einstein, who
This is
he knew things. I don't think he was particularly spiritual about stuff, but this
more
is
than you think.
right because he was spiritual in the sense of quantum physics. Like it's truth from a really smart person perspective, and the way that this ties into the whole idea of the spirit and the flesh, these two different operating systems, is just super cool. He said,
intuitive mind versus
yeah, he said the intuitive mind is a sacred gift. The intuitive mind is just another way of talking about the spirit, that God-plane connection. He said the intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. The rational mind is literally your brain, your flesh, you thinking about stuff.
It's not necessarily bad. It's just
Right.
a human mind.
Exactly. Yeah, one's not bad, one's not good, but the intuitive mind is a sacred gift. The rational mind is a faithful servant. And he said, we've created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. And in the Western world, it's all cerebral, it's all intellectual, it's all let's think about this
Yeah,
and
even our
act
understanding
accordingly.
of God.
Yeah.
It's like all
Yeah, we have
intellectual.
the thinking man's version of how to interact with God. I'm asking for something and I expect an answer in writing by the end of the day, and okay, show me what to do and I'll do it. But the intuitive mind, that connection to God, doesn't operate in a rational way. He will have you do some crazy stuff that makes no sense at all, that winds up making sense down the
It's
road.
kind of like, if you guys are seeing Indiana Jones, The Last Crusade, you know, like at the end where he's like on this cliff, and it looks like if you take a step, he's dead.
Yeah,
There's
the leap
there's
of
no
faith.
path. Yeah. And he just does it, he's like, "Ah," and he's caught by a surface that's a path that he just couldn't see from that direction. And the camera pans around and you're like, oh.
It's a trick, and you
It's a-
see the little
it's
stone
him.
bridge, and if you've never seen it before, we just totally ruined the movie, so I apologize. But
It's a pretty awesome scene though, but yeah, he's gonna ask you to do some kind of crazy stuff sometimes.
yeah, but the idea that there are these two operating systems, and they're both useful, but don't turn the servant into the master. Don't follow your rational brain to your own hurt when you have a completely different operating system that God made to be able to communicate those deeper things with you.
So we wanna help you guys choose an awesome life. Like, as a Christian, you can choose a life, you can still be a Christian and you can choose a life you love, or you can choose a life you hate. Like, literally, it's your choice. Because maybe Paul and Barnabas, when they're in prison, they could be like, oh, I hate my life. But because they had trained themselves to, I have a life I love, no matter where I am. You can have that anywhere. So we don't call goals, we actually call them choices. Because it's much more powerful to say, I choose. So, where do you go with that?
Yeah.
So yeah, what we're gonna do first, just over the next few days, we're gonna help you guys figure out what are your core choices, what do you want to create, what does God want you to create in your life, and each of those is kind of a step towards this North Star of your calling. Okay, so, let's see.
Just a sec. So the whole idea is that when you align yourself with God and say, God, whatever you want for my life, I want that thing too. When you pick those things as what you really want, it's going to come about. It's going to line up because God's will is going to happen. And so if you line yourself up with that, what you want is going to happen too. If you've picked something off that's totally off in left field and doesn't have anything to do with what God wants, you might be able to pull it off. You might get it, but you might not. And it might not be good for you. It might not be what you actually want. So the first step is aligning yourself intentionally with what does God want for me. If you can figure that out first, that's the first step.
Yeah, so we're gonna get there, but first, to set good choices, we need to understand how we set bad choices accidentally. So there are 6 lies that we adopt really early in life. They're core lies from the enemy that aren't true at all about us, but we believe deep down they're true. And these are holes, these are the ways we feel incomplete. If I always want love, it means I don't feel loved deep down. If I'm looking for love outside of me, I'm incomplete, and I'm searching for it through people. But really, you can only fill that in one way. So these holes are where we accidentally create goals that will not fulfill us.
And they're 6 specific ones, right?
Yep, that's what we're gonna go over really quick. So it's like we live our life to fill these holes without even meaning to. So the first lie is, and I want you guys to you can write these down if you want, and I wanna know which one resonates most with you, because we each usually have one that we don't realize is ruling our life. The first one is, I'm not good enough. And so people with this one need to prove that they are good enough because they don't deep down believe it. So they try really, really hard and burn themselves out being so good. So that's me.
They're the overachievers.
Yes. The second lie is, I'm not worthy. I don't deserve. So if you have this lie that you believe deep down, you have this hole you're trying to fill. So you're always thinking when you're goal setting, well, I need to be worthy, so I'll prove myself, and once I'm worthy, then I'll get what I want. But I have to be worthy first. And all of these holes, all this brokenness, we have to understand, we are broken. These are true on your flesh level. You aren't worthy of salvation. You aren't worthy of, you're not good enough, you're not perfect, all these things. But
You're
when
never
we
gonna fill them.
adopt Christ in us, those holes don't matter anymore. We are worthy. On the flip side, we are worthy. We are perfect because He is perfect. He's living in us. So it's kind of this duality. The third lie is, I don't belong. So what do you guys think you do if you have the belief deep down that you don't belong? If you feel like you don't belong and you're always like
trying to
rejected,
fix
what
that.
would you do to try to like compensate?
I think there's like two things that you do. Either you would isolate or you would try to be super social.
To try to fit in? Yeah.
Like shift,
Yeah.
gauging on what people
Yeah.
Go out of your way to
Yeah, so you kind of like become a chameleon. You choose to like hide who you
You
actually
try to fit in and hide who you really are because you don't want to get rejected, right? Or you might reject other people first.
It's like be yourself away from others, or be the fantasy that others have of you.
What you're supposed to be.
That's right. The perfect person I'm supposed to be. Yeah. Yeah. So that person's always trying to fit in. And the truth is, we all belong. We belong with Him, and He accepts us for whoever we are deep down. Okay, the next slide, fourth one is I'm insignificant. I don't mean anything. What would this person that thinks they're insignificant try to do? Do you feel like you don't mean anything?
How do you fix that if that's what you deep down believe? What do you do?
That one's a little bit harder. Basically, it'd be the person that's trying to achieve. Like, I have to be significant. I gotta get myself on like cover magazine. I gotta do everything I can to look significant to others.
I'm a proof this.
I'm gonna prove I
Yeah.
do that because I deep down believe I don't.
Yeah.
I could even see that kind of person being the person that forces respect, like forces other people to respect them so they can kind of force being significant.
Right. Yeah, because a person that really does have true significance never has to force anybody to think that. People just think that. The next one, the fifth one is I'm not perfect. Because, the flesh isn't perfect, but if you have Christ's identity in you, you are. So what does perfect think? I'm not perfect. What do you think they're always trying to prove?
They hide their imperfections.
And if you hide your imperfections, you cannot do anything where you might fail. So you see how that would block you from anything you actually want to do. Like they basically go through life trying to control everything, how everybody perceives them, so everybody sees them as perfect. And they can't fail, they can't make a mistake. So that really is going to block you from going for the big things you want.
And it also takes a bigger toll on the person, because if they do something and they do end up messing up, and that just solidifies the thought of, oh, I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
And it might even go as far as to be, I'm bad, or I'm broken, or I'm terrible.
Right. And the weird thing about all of these are when we actually end up creating what we're trying to avoid. If you try to belong and you think you don't belong, you're going to end up getting rejected. And always end up creating what you're avoiding. Because the analogy would be, so the spirit and the flesh, the creative versus the victim. If I'm always trying to avoid this flesh part of me, this I'm not perfect, I'm always going to be, if you hook a rubber band over here, I'm going to get away from this. I'm going to get away from this. The tension increases the farther you get away from it, right?
The more perfect you pretend
The
to
more
be,
perfect you pretend to be, right? But then eventually you're far enough away, you stop trying, and you go right back to now everybody's seeing the imperfection. Now everybody's seeing that I'm rejected. And that's why we are going to teach you how to anchor over here to what you want to be, what your true choices are. All right, last one, sixth one is I'm not capable. Sixth slide. I'm not capable. So this person deep down believes they're not. They can't actually, they don't have enough time, they don't have enough energy, they don't have enough resources to do what they need to.
and so how do they spend their time? They spend their time trying to get the resources, the money, the time, the whatever, for them to do what they want to.
So when we have these, we always will sabotage what we actually want, because we're just trying to get away from something. So those are the 6 lies. Which did any of these ring true for you? Any of you? I definitely have that. I mean, I think we have all of them in some degree, but usually one stands out more than the others. One not really helpful.
It's
Yeah, they're not good enough, is especially a big one, that I hear a lot in my head.
Yeah, and the power in this is it's never going to go away completely, but if you're aware of it, anytime that voice comes in that says I'm not good enough, you're going to be like, oh, that's the I'm not good enough lie, and you can override it.
Yeah. It's interesting because
She has one.
oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I just was saying, I think it's interesting that the not capable one is one that you included into this, because I have a best friend who literally was talking to her the other day, and that's what she said. And I think that it's interesting, because I've heard all the other ones a lot, but I never heard, like, I'm not capable until I was talking to her, and she said that, and I was like, that's interesting. So when I saw you, like, that's actually very interesting, because I think people would maybe word that in a different way, but, like, in some of these, like, perfection, like, you could also include, like, incapable. Like, I feel like those two pair really well together. So I just wanted to comment. I thought it was really interesting that was one of the
They're
6.
slightly different.
Yeah. And I don't think that a lot of people would phrase it that way. So I like that.
That's the person that's like, oh, I can't get the job I want until I get 500 degrees first. Like, I have to go get this degree, now I gotta get this certification. I'll never know enough to
Yeah.
do it.
I'm not capable is my thing, actually. Like I'm always trying to accomplish something by getting the resources and the money and like for years I always thought, the thing that makes me special, the thing that sets me apart is that I'm able to do things other people aren't willing to do. And it was just
But to
doing that
prove how
whole
capable you
thing. To
were.
prove I was capable of it, I would achieve things. To prove I am able to do that.
Even
I
if they
am
weren't
capable.
what you wanted and what would bring you fulfillment.
Right,
Yeah.
right, and it was this cycle of, okay, prove I can do the thing, okay, I don't really care anymore, okay, find a new thing that I can prove I can do, and it never actually got anything done.
Did you hear any of these, like,
I've been up here for like 3
Okay.
minutes, and the first thing you guys said, I recognize.
Really?
Which one?
That I'm not capable.
Okay, well, you came up just in time, guys. Oh, yes.
Do you think that another avenue of the person who thinks they're not capable could also be like someone who just doesn't try for fear of failing and having that actually be confirmed?
That would be more of the, that'd be fit more into the I'm not perfect.
Okay.
I think, like she was saying, there's a nuance between them.
Okay.
Yeah, the I'm not perfect person is afraid of failing and everybody's seeing it, but they're not perfect.
Okay.
I'm not capable is like, I always need to find, I need to get more things in order to make it capable.
Could the person, if a person is, and I'm really trying to learn this, to kind of differentiate the different disconnections. And could the person who thinks they're not capable be extremely capable in all things like fleshly knowledge,
Yes.
wisdom, blah, blah, blah,
That's
but
usually
then
not
be
the
like, but they don't feel they're capable of connecting with God or hearing Him or capable of.
That's a great way of phrasing it. Yeah,
Okay.
that's really capable to others.
It may have no basis in physical reality at all, but it's that message that's always in there
But he's saying that it's all
motivating
people
you.
that look very capable at everything.
Yeah.
We always said Aaron.
Or even
the
feel
Renaissance
themselves
man,
feel very capable.
Yes.
So this kind of helps you distinguish.
It's like a fleshly, carnal
Yeah.
capability, like arrogance almost. I can do anything versus true capability.
Yeah, but I'm not capable of doing this thing with God, so does He really exist? Is He really there? I don't know that I have faith in that.
Yeah.
And they're not categories. There's overlap, and they're all flow together. Charlotte?
Mine's I don't belong.
I don't belong.
Right.
Yeah. And how do you feel like that shows up? Oh, you don't want to ask you. Yeah, so if you feel like you don't belong, usually you end up creating situations where you don't belong.
Yeah, where reality
Accidentally.
confirms
Reality will
the thing
always
that you
confirm-
believe.
Will always confirm the things that you believe deep down. Did you have something that you were gonna say? It looked like you did it. No, okay.
I mean, I can touch on this because I do have a thought on the not capable. I think, I know for me, for a little while, it was that first. Instead of being able to do all the earthly things and not be able to connect with God, it was the opposite. Like I could have this relationship with God. I could devote myself. I could, go to church and get a ton from it and connect with people in like a small group standpoint. But then I would go into regular worldly situations like birthday parties or hangouts with friends. And then that's when the I don't belong would come up. Because I can do all this stuff here with God, and then when I try to fit in, or when I try to hang out with the people who I can see and like physically hear and touch, then it's like, okay, I'm like there. So it's like
It's interesting to see it manifest like that.
Like what parts of your life
Because-
that lie like locks onto.
Because there's a verse somewhere that says like the way you feel about your fellow man is how you actually feel about God. So it's like a window into like, okay, wait a minute. So that means there's probably some things blocking your relationship with God also that I'm not aware of, but you're only seeing it show up here. Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm curious about Lando. I'm curious if you're self-aware enough with your logical, rational mind to feel like any of these resonate with you, or if you're perfect or
Did any of them be like? Did any of them like
So
under the surface like sting a little bit before you logically were like that doesn't make sense?
He doesn't have emotions though, he said.
He
does have emotions.
Of course you have emotions, but you don't feel them, so that's why none of these resonate. So it'd be interesting as, so you're perfect and capable of all this.
I don't know, I don't feel like I'm lacking in those areas, like I don't feel like I think that about myself,
Yeah,
so.
well, and this course hopefully is gonna build some self-awareness in all of us, because some of these are hiding.
Mhm. Yeah, it's easy to not register those things because that's a bad feeling. Recognizing, oh, I don't think I'm capable of anything. That stings.
So I want to move through this next part a little bit quickly so we can get to something that's more positive. Okay, so those were like the 6 lies, I believe. Now, there's also 6 ways that we create false goals. So the reason we go through this is because we want to create the true things we actually want out of life that are gonna make us in love with not just life, but God is life. We want to be in love with the life we're living. We want to be in love with our choices and our calling. What did you say in your sermon the other week? God will never give you gifts in an area that He doesn't want you to serve in. How did you say it?
God won't give you like gifts and talents and interests and passions and capabilities, and then give you a job that has nothing to do with those that you have no business doing.
Yeah. Okay, so the 6 ways that we accidentally create false goals that leave us unfulfilled. So the first one is kind of what we touched on already. It's compensating for the lie. And we kind of talked about this already.
It's all the stuff that we just talked about, yeah.
So your goal is really, you set a goal and it's really just about resolving to make it feel incomplete. So, I'm not worthy. That person is going to make all their goals about others in the world and society to look worthy, to prove they're worthy. I'm not good enough. So we already kind of went through all of these, but so the first way we set false goals is we're compensating. The second way we set goals that aren't actually real and aren't in line with God's purpose for us is based on reaction. So your goal is actually a desire to get away from something you don't want, like what I was saying. Like, I don't want this, so I'm gonna go
as far away
from that as I can. So like it's a person that's like, well, I feel really fat, so I'm gonna go to the gym. So they could choose, I want to be in shape. That's a positive goal, right? And if you anchor over here, you hook your rubber band over here.
To a positive goal.
Where is the tension going to resolve? If you pull it, it's going to go wing,
toward the positive goal.
because you're going for the positive. But if we create something out of reaction, we say, I'm fat, I'm overweight, I got to go to the gym. We're anchoring over here. And if we stretch, okay, good, we're getting farther, I'm getting more fit. Yay, I'm good enough. Where is the tension going to resolve? Wing.
Right back at feeling.
That's why you see these
out of shape.
oscillating, that yo-yo dance, that's what it's called. Or like, I got fired, so I hate my boss, so I'm gonna start a business. It's not because you want to start a business, it's because you're creating out of reaction. Because I hate my boss, I'm gonna do this thing. And it's always, whenever you choose from reaction, you're always gonna end up getting far enough away that you lose momentum and you snap right back.
And you're gonna create a business where you wind up hating your boss,
Oh, wait,
even if you're the
This
boss.
happened to you, didn't it? Okay, let's go on. All right, the third way we create false goals is limitation. Limitation, so we're limiting our goal, we're editing it down. So we might have this big vision for what we want to create, but we're like, well, I can't really do that. I kind of want that big thing, but I'm gonna go for this small thing first that's kind of similar. So we edit down because we don't think we're capable of it. All those limiting beliefs play into that. I mean, everybody's probably had that where you want this big thing. I want I don't know.
I want to sail around the world, but there's no way I could ever do that. So, okay, I'm gonna get, I'm gonna get a rowboat.
Yeah.
Like you get it down to what you think makes sense version of what you actually want.
I want to be an artist, but I can't pay my bills, and that's probably not going to work. So I'm just going to do a little art on the side. I'm going to go for this career I hate.
I'll be an accountant.
Yeah, I'll be an accountant. Not that that's a bad thing.
No.
It is in line, but
How did you paraphrase that point?
limitation.
You're limiting
You're
your,
limiting your dream. You're limiting yourself. You're limiting God, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a big dream, but that's not
The weird
that's not
thing-
possible.
The weird thing is, the bigger your calling, the bigger your dream, the bigger you're going for, the easier it actually is to accomplish. Because you're not worrying about all those little steps to get there. You're just choosing, hey God, if this is what you want from me, you're gonna get me there. It's like the magnet, it's like the rubber band, like he will pull you there. You're going for that big dream. Editing it down makes it smaller and harder because we try to control every single micro step we're taking. All right, the next one is other people's opinions. That's a big one. So your goal is designed, your choice that you're creating is designed to make other people happy. That's a big one. That was a big one for me. So I love psychology. I always have, like I said, I'm super nerdy. And I wanted to go to school to learn. Well, I didn't actually want to go to school at all, but my parents were like, okay, you have to go to college. That's what smart people do, right? So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll major in psychology. But because my dad said, well, you're never going to do anything with that degree. Get a business degree. I was like, okay, I guess I should. I'll make him happy, like under the surface. So I'm like, okay, well, what can I do? What do I like in business? Nothing. All right, maybe marketing. Marketing's kind of about psychology, so I chose to major in business marketing. But I didn't go for what I want or what I was passionate about. Thankfully, even if you take a detour, God will always use that for your good. Because I needed to learn. Don't follow what other people's opinions are. Follow what God is telling me. In my heart, I'm going to shut down. But He will always make our detour, just like a GPS. Will reroute you. Rerouting. It'll always turn out for the good. But you can avoid a lot of pain, too, I think. So that one is just about creating goals based on what other people think. My parents think I should be a doctor, so I guess I'll do that, even though I'm actually an artist at heart. Okay, the next one, the way we create false goals is control. Like we're controlling the dream. So this is where it has to show up exactly the way you want it in every little micro minute detail. Instead of saying, I want a loving relationship. You'd say, okay, I want that particular person and they have to be really nice to me and I would love it if they were maybe a pig. Like you're controlling. Okay. A better choice is expansive because God is so much bigger and He wants to give you your dreams and your calling in a way that's better than you can even imagine. You don't want to edit it down.
Saying I want an awesome relationship with somebody that has they're great with kids and they love the outdoors and that's the person. As opposed to I want to marry that person and that's how they're going to act and this is what our relationship's going to be like. That's called being a stalker. As opposed to opening up your goal to whoever perfectly fits.
Limits how you can work in your life.
Exactly.
Because it has to show up exactly how you want it, not how the surprising way or magical way He wants to show up for you. The next one is indirectness. So indirectness, that just means like, well, I want to get here. I want to be free. I want to be like financially free. I want to be independent. That's okay. But okay, in order to do that, I'm going to take all these jobs that are going to make me make money, and then I'll be financially free. Seems like it would make sense, but you're actually going the indirect route to get there. If you choose, okay, I want to be free. That's like a true thing you want. You just have to choose that, and God will make, and you feel that He's going to do it for you, and He will make the right opportunities float into your life. You don't even have to like look down. All
As
right.
opposed to, I want to make $1 million because I want to feel financially free.
Yeah.
If you're focused on not the goal, you're not going to get the thing you actually want.
All
You're
right.
going to get the thing.
There's one where I think there was actually 7, not 6. The last one is choosing by default. This is like the person that says, well, I don't really have any goals because I have enough. I have enough.
I'll take whatever I get.
I'll take whatever I get, yeah. And that one's kind of an interesting one because we do need to be completely satisfied wherever we are. Because whatever we do, that's true fulfillment. But you can be completely satisfied where you are with what you have and also want to create more. God's a creator. We're creators. But we also need to be content where we are. So, anyways. All right. Do you have anything to add? Or no?
Nope.
All right. So, let's move into some more positive stuff. That's all the stuff that we need to be aware of in order to create things we actually want in our life. So instead of doing that, let's see. But yeah, we're going to do some exercises in the next few days to create the true choices.
Lots of actual choice setting
And now we
for
have
each
a
one of
little
you. So yeah, we're going to do one.
exercise.
We're almost done. I know we're running
Yeah,
we're running
I'm trying to
long,
speed
but
up.
hopefully we haven't. I don't think we've lost anybody yet.
Yeah.
Nobody's asleep.
So we're going to do exercise where we're going to kind of distill this into the 3 most important questions you can ask yourself. And this is really going to get to the heart of what God wants you to do and be in your life. So, do you want to leave this, actually?
I feel like you know it better.
Okay. So, we're going to just tune in and connect with God for a minute. And then I'm just going to ask you 3 different questions and give you a little time to just hear what the answers are. And you just write down whatever comes to mind.
Please shut off your brain.
Yeah, shut off your
Don't
brain.
evaluate. Oh, that's a stupid thing
That's
to
stupid,
think.
yeah. Yeah, there's no stupid, there's just write down what comes to you. All right, so if you guys would just close your eyes for a minute. And just take a deep breath. And just choose to connect with God in whatever way you feel that connection. You just kind of like take an elevator ride down. Just imagine you can imagine taking an elevator ride down from your brain, down into your spiritual heart. Just your be centered and connect to God's spirit and His will for you. Just take another deep breath. And just from that place, answer these questions I'll ask you. You can open your eyes. Okay, the first one is, if you knew you were going to succeed at whatever you did, what would you do or be? You knew you were going to succeed. And just write down what comes to your mind with no filtering. You knew you could. What would you do? If you knew that you were going to succeed at whatever you did, what would you do? Who would you be? If you knew you couldn't fail. And just keep asking and see if there's any more answers. If you knew you couldn't fail. What would you just love?
Doesn't have to be just one, it could be a bunch of things. But if you were guaranteed to succeed, what would you do?
Looks like you guys are mostly done.
He was still in his mindset.
Yeah, he was tuned, so
Yeah.
tuned in.
Oh, I got you.
Is anybody going to share what they got on that? What did you get? Connecting with people, arts and
Social
crafts,
art.
and connecting with people. Cool.
Everybody else, what would you do if you were guaranteed to succeed? Oh,
Do acronyms.
yeah,
Become Mr. B.
What was that? You got
Mr. B.
No.
Mr. Beast. No, wait,
Famous
is there some truth in there? You want to be a YouTuber?
No, not really.
Oh, okay. How about you, Draven?
Well, I would love to do like oversee like whenever in behind the scenes of things, whenever people create content, when it comes to animations, they will have everyone has a different job, and I would like to be the person who is the animation director, and I would like to voice act as well. I think that would be
Well, that's really specific in a good way. That's great. How about
Also a
you?
singer and actor.
Really?
Cool.
Well, you're halfway there. We saw some really good acting from already this week.
Those skits, that's your ticket.
That's my thing.
Yeah, and everything you're writing down, these are your deepest desires. And if you, we'll do the next couple of questions, but if you keep this, what you've written down, just on a piece of paper, on a word, like, and you just keep it in your pocket and you look at it frequently, it's very powerful.
You don't have to figure out how, you just
You
have
don't have
to
to figure out
realize
how, you just have
what.
to feel what that would feel to have that. Okay, the next question. All right, you guys ready? All right. If you had $100 million in the bank, all the money you could possibly have,
For anything.
for anything,
You could
what-
not spend all this
Yeah,
money.
yeah. What would you do? Or who would you be? You get all the money you could possibly want, what would you do? Anybody got some answers?
Maybe.
Yeah, what?
Like, seriously, I would, like, make a business, start a business. But, like, for just spending money, I'd buy a tank.
For what?
Or just, like, random spending money, I'd buy a tank.
A tank, like an armored tank?
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm not gonna trade that.
I'd buy Disney, make it a Christian company, and fix Star
Oh,
Wars.
I like that one.
Yeah.
And act in your own
Oh.
movie.
And act in my own and
So you need
sing.
to create a mini Disney.
Or you can make
and
your
you can
own.
sing and act there.
You can make your own and then hire her.
There we go. So I got some artists already.
But is that actually like kind of a real thing for you? Is that
Oh,
what you-
if someone gave me the money and I could afford to buy it, I would do it in a heartbeat.
So guess what? The cool thing about this question is you do have all the riches and abundance you need because guess what? You're connected to an abundant God who owns everything. Everything. The money can come. If he wants you to build something that seems crazy like that, think about how that lines up with what you just said about singing and acting.
Yeah.
And it seems outlandish and far-fetched, right? He can provide it.
Just Christ.
We were talking about that the other night. The silver and the gold are his. If God
It is,
gives
yeah.
you a mission, if he gives you a purpose or a calling,
He'll bring the money.
he's got the money for it.
Right.
And if he wants you to do it, he'll give you what you need.
Right.
I said, give it to people in need, to use it to help them.
Like a charity? Or you would just give it away?
Be able to help people who need it. Yeah.
Just, I mean, if I see someone on the street that needs money,
Like Mr. Beast.
I do not want to be Mr. Beast.
Why Mr. Beast haven't been my slave?
What do you got?
But pay off my parents' house,
Yeah,
buy my parents their dream cars,
that's cool.
buy a place out in the middle of nowhere with a bunch of land and cows.
That's awesome.
Dream farm.
Yeah. The cool thing is, like, even though somebody's just like, oh, wow, how in the world did I get there? If you have this in your mind and literally on a physical piece of paper or something you can refer back to, you keep reminding yourself every day, okay, that's what I deeply desire. God, if you're in this, bring this about. And you just keep on feeling it. It's all in, not emotions. I'm talking about the deep soil, like the deep depth of your heart.
Your heart.
Your feelings are different than your emotions. If you feel these things every day and you pray about them, and you're like, God, I have faith that you're going to give me what you want to give me with this, and you just feel it, you magnetize it to you. And it doesn't mean you don't take any action steps. We're not talking about woo-woo.
Yep.
You have to take the action steps. That's
The way it works is if you're focused on that goal, anytime an opportunity comes along that will move you toward that goal, you'll be ready to take it.
Yes.
Because you see, that lines up with the thing I'm focused on. and you get one little step closer. And every time an opportunity comes in, you're primed to see it and take advantage
We're gonna
of it.
teach you like later on how to get those action steps, like what is that? All right, last
Last
question.
one, then we're
Last
almost
question,
done.
we can wrap this up. Okay, last question. If you, this one's kind of deep, this one kind of make you want to read. I did this with Aaron last night, one last time, before we did this. Okay, if you knew that you only had 6 months left to live, what would you do at the time? Who would you be? And it's a cliche question, but it really does force you to be like, okay, what's important to me? If you only had 6 months left, what would you do?
Spend it with my family.
I'd become a hobo in the woods.
Making YouTube videos.
With Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
I'm gonna probably go out and try it and just, you would want to leave having impacted as many people as you possibly can. With like, the Bible and things, just, it's the most important thing.
Is it impacting people? I was thinking just impacting people.
So I would probably, become a missionary, go to probably the most risky places like the 1040s,
1040.
or I think that's what it's called. I don't know, but it's like this place where it's only like 10 or 1500, I think it would be, but it's like ever so many people out of the whole country when we know about fire. It's like 10 out of every whatever. But I would go to like the scary places and become a missionary and evangelize and get kind of on the planes to and from and whatever. But then I would also just share whatever I can. If someone's crying, even if they're a stranger, give them a hug.
Yeah.
If I get slapped, who cares? I got 6 months to go.
Right. What I'm noticing from all these answers so far is the deeper we get with these questions, the more outgoing giving is being said. Like, you have 6 months left to live. Most people are saying they're not going to spend it just for themselves. They're
Focused
going
outward.
to focus outward. And that is where God wants us to be. Yeah.
Just in case anyone else is feeling the opposite way, I actually found my answer for that one to be a little bit more inward.
That's okay. What is it?
I just wanted to play it out there in case anyone else listening.
Inward is good too, because we have to love ourselves in order to love our neighbor.
Can you share what it was?
I would just want to probably spend the time with the people that I care about most. But I don't know if it would be so much for them as for me.
Yeah.
The real question is, it seems like everybody's got a blank check of time, especially, the younger you are, you got limitless time. The idea is, okay, if you had 6 months, what are you gonna cash that in for? How are you gonna spend 6 months of time? Which, like, that's a finite period of time. What would you trade that in to be able to do? When it's not just, time
The
for
point of all of this is you can start taking action steps towards all of these now. And I encourage you guys, don't write off these goals, because life is gonna come in and smack you upside the head sometimes. And it just won't work out, but if you keep on being focused, it'll work. All right. Okay, so we're gonna leave you today with, there's just a little bit of homework, and it's really, really easy. All right, these are all just tuning into, like, what would we love, what's connected with him. But I wanna get bigger with you guys. Every night, while you're here, before you go to bed, like your last thought, and the first thing you think of when you wake up in the morning before you're even up, I want you to connect with God. This is a challenge. We'll see if you guys can actually do it. It's hard to get into the habit. I want you to connect with Him and ask Him, what is my purpose? What is my mission? And just listen. If you do that every morning and night while you're here, I want you to just see what answers you get. And each time it's going to be easier. And see if they connect, see see if you really get like a theme happening. Because I've asked God for I asked him for the first time 6 years ago when I was going through that breakdown, what's my purpose? And I got really clear, bringing the family together. And I kind of forgot about it. And then whenever I got lost over the last few years, I'd ask him again, God, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? And it'd be a different version of the exact same thing. I want you to have a heart for family, bringing your family together. So the reason I want you to do it right when you wake up, before you go to bed, right before you go to sleep, is scientifically, when we're in our waking state like this, our brain waves are going really fast. They're in beta. It's called beta.
Thinking smart person mode.
Yes, rational mind only, which is good. It's a tool. But when science studies have, I can't remember the name, electroencephalograms or something like that. They hook these up to people when they're praying or connecting, or just tuning inward and being like, feeling what I'm feeling. And their brain waves lower into the next state, which is called alpha. It's a little slower. It's where you're not overwriting stuff with your brain. Well, it's calm.
It's where you can just like absorb things and you're.
It's also called hypnosis. We're all in hypnosis sometimes during the day. Anyways, that's when you're going to get more clear answers without overwriting it. So.
Yeah. It also happens when you're listening to music, when you're watching a movie, when you're just like absorbing something. Your brain slows down, and whatever that thing is can just like come right in without you judging it or evaluating it. That's why you gotta be careful what you listen to and what you watch, because when you get into that mode, it's just mainlining right into your head.
So anyways, so we're gonna ask this, bro.
Yeah, so just as you're falling asleep, first thing when you wake up, what's my purpose? And just whatever it is, whatever the answer, the thought, the visual, whatever it is, don't be like, well, that's dumb. Just take note of what it is, maybe write it down, just file it away and be like, all right, wonder what I'll get tomorrow. It'll be something similar, or it'll be totally off in a different direction.
All right, awesome.
Yep. Thank you guys. This was awesome. Hopefully you're looking forward to tomorrow. I am.